Hello everyone, it's Dr. Jen Kordonsky at Optimal Spine Chiropractic, bringing to you the power of posture this evening's class. Let's just state first that the reason we are here is that when the going gets tough, I like to say the tough get adjusted. And even if you're not able to physically get adjusted, we are still adjusting the way we think, we're adjusting our mindset, we're adjusting our focus. And if what you want more of is health, then you're focusing on it and you're in the right place. So the power of posture. Posture has a lot of power over how you think, feel, look, move, and we're going to talk about that. Number one, from the outside, it's really going to influence the way you look to other people. So obviously, you may not have thought about it, but you don't see superheroes presented as slumped over like this. You know, this kind of position, this posture would be the bad guy, right? We're going to look more confident. We're going to look more fit. We're going to look more attractive when we have and we are using good posture. It may be a small effect, but it's going to influence the way the other people observe you, the way they interact with you, what opportunities might present themselves in your life because you're putting out an external image of either good posture or negative posture. Poor posture would carry the impression of someone who's lazy or tired or depressed, not at their best, not the most confident. You know, if you're walking down the street and you are feeling unsafe, you would certainly change your posture and the speed at which you're moving to give the impression that you are not vulnerable, right? So we know this instinctively, but we may not have thought about our day-to-day use of our body and our posture and how it's affecting the way we look from the outside. So that being the least important thing, I want to go next to how posture affects how your brain works. So your brain, there's going to be an influence from your posture on the way your brain works, especially in two different areas. One, your mood, and two, your memory. And there's been research that took people who were actually clinically depressed, and they took a group of patients and had them taking antidepressants. They had a group of patients being the control group, and they had a group of patients actually report to the study facility. And every day for the length of the study, they had to stand with good posture, put a smile on their face, and look at themselves in the mirror. And at the end of the study, the group that did the smiling, good posture in front of the mirror actually had the best results in their mood and in their depressive symptoms. So that shows you that there's an influence on your mood with the positioning that your body is in. Another interesting study looked at recall and memory, and they had college students learning something or reading something while they were, hunched over their desk with poor posture. And then they had a group with good posture, and they measured on a test the information that those students retained. And the students who were using good posture were more attentive and had better recall of that information on the test. They also found that when asking the students about different memories, having them recall things from their life, they were recalling things based upon the posture that they were in. So if the student was representing good posture, they were more likely to recall positive memories. They were more likely to remember things where they were successful, and the reverse was true. Those students who were slumped and had poor posture were more likely to recall incidents where they were not successful or information from their past that was negative or sad. So we're wanting to use that to our advantage, of course. Now, number 3, the way posture has power over you is, to me, the most important. It's spinal health. Your posture is going to impact your spinal health. And if you understand how important your spine is in the way that every part of your body and your life functions, then you know anything that's going to take away from your spinal health is going to have a pretty negative impact on multiple areas of your life, mental and physical well-being. And if we can make improvements in spinal health, that goes so far in our health and our well-being, our longevity, how our body expresses our potential. And we all have potential, and I want you expressing 100% of it. So let's talk a little bit about the relationship between the spine and your posture. Obviously, if you've been around here any length of time, you understand that there's an ideal alignment, ideal shape, and an ideal movement of your spine. And that is represented, or it's supported, when we have good posture. Poor posture is going to take the spine out of its ideal position. And I'm going to grab the spinal model here. And you remember, if you look closely, all those beautiful little yellow things that are coming out from between the bones of the spine, those are the nerves. This is what makes the spine so important. And it goes far beyond whether you have back or neck pain. When your spine is healthy, these nerves have the best amount of space in order to function, and the movement of the joints is communicating, or is allowing the brain and body to communicate properly. When we change the ideal shape and health of the spine, we impact the nerve system. This is why the health of your spine is so critical. When you impact the nerve system, that's your body's communication system. We all know instinctively that when communication fails, in any sense of it, things go wrong. And if communication in your body fails, then things go wrong. And it's not just going to be experiencing pain. So I want you to think of your body. I want you to think of your spine as the main power supply. From your brain, you have electrical information that's going down the spinal cord, out through the nerves to the body, and you know that information is going back up to the brain through the spine. So back and forth, there's this constant information all day, every day, your body's communication system. And we're going to talk about what ideal spinal alignment is, but when we have upright, good posture, that information is flowing freely. And I want you to imagine that when we have poor posture, that we slump forward and down. Imagine a light switch. In the up position, the power is flowing, the light is on, and when you go click and you flip the light switch to the down position, then we shut off the power. So the moment that you take your body out of ideal alignment and you go, boom, click the light switch off, I want you to think that I'm turning off power to my body. That's disrupting communication to all of my most vital organs, and all of my vital functions are a little less. Now, of course, we're not actually shutting off completely, but you are disrupting. You are not allowing optimal expression of that information through the body. And that happens instantly. So one time of pulling your phone out of your pocket and looking down and just having that forward head position, 1 week of sitting on the couch with your laptop to work from home, and that's stressing the nerves immediately. It doesn't take time. It doesn't take years to interfere with the communication. Now, the good news is that if you stop, you instantly change that. However, after a few minutes of poor posture, we also start to aggravate the muscles, right? So your muscles, so especially if we talk about your head, should be upright over your shoulders. And if it's coming out here, then these muscles are working overtime to hold your head up against gravity's forces, right? So is it any wonder that these are going to get so tight and sore, the lactic acid builds up in there, those muscles are overworked. So that happens even after just a few minutes with postural stress on your spine. Now, if we keep repeating this over and over again, we're going to start to accumulate that stress, and it's going to start to affect the ligaments and the discs. And, you do this for a couple of days, a couple of weeks, a couple of months, we start to accumulate a little more damage, a little more damage, a little more damage. I want you to think of taking a rubber band, right? The ligaments and the disc, and just pushing it or stretching it past its point. And over time, we keep doing that. We start to break down the rubber band, right? So over time, you're going to accumulate damage to the ligaments and the discs. Now, if we keep doing this for years and years and decades, then the end result is degenerative disc disease and arthritis of the spine. And we're told erroneously that these are just effects of aging. And it's not aging, it's time with abnormal use. So it looks like it's aging because it takes time for this damage to develop. But this is why I'm absolutely the posture police. I am constantly telling my kids to pick up their heads, telling them, you're looking at your tablet like this, you're getting subluxations, you're damaging your spine. And we see people here waiting for their adjustment, looking down at their phone. I'm hearing the stories of everyone having to work from home right now with the laptop, and the workstation is obviously not ideal. And it was bad enough when we were working in the office without an ideal work setup. Now it's even worse at home. So this is why absolutely my children, my family, everyone on this team, and all of the healthiest patients in this practice are getting adjusted weekly. We're paying attention to our posture as much as we possibly can, but we're still understanding that there's continual forces working on our body, and that the ideal way to maximize the health of our spine and therefore the health of our body and the full expression of potential in our life is by consistently, weekly checking for those subluxations and helping our body correct them. Now, there are some keys that you need to learn here, and I want you to learn the rules of good posture so that you can start to tap into the power of posture. I don't want you to think of just the negative effects. I want you to think of, if I can make a change and make an improvement to my posture, that's me adding good. That's me building my health, okay? So learning what good posture is, or let's talk about spinal neutral, which would be ideal posture. That's your first step, is you need to know what it is. So obviously from the front, we need to be straight up and down. So if you're sitting and your legs are crossed and you're on the phone like this, obviously we're losing that straight up and down position. I want you to think of that when you lay down to go to sleep at night. If you're laying on your side, you should still be able to draw a nice straight line down the middle of your body. That can be supported with the right pillow. So if your pillow is too small, you'll do this, or you'll roll or twist. A pillow between your knees can help you keep a nice straight alignment like this. Now, the side view of your spine. This is very important. We need to be able to draw a line from the ear to the middle of the shoulder. We should avoid the head being forward. This is the most important thing I can teach you. This forward head position is really detrimental to the health of your spine. So bringing the head back, ear over shoulder. So write that down, ear in line with shoulder, or ear over shoulder. That's the most important rule of posture that you can remember, learn, teach to others, and apply as often as possible. The next rule is that there should be a slight forward curve of your lower back. Now when we sit down, we have a tendency to roll and curve out the lower back. So some people stand like this, but a lot of people will sit like this even unknowingly. So maintaining a slight curve, not extreme, but a slight curve in the lower back is really critical for the health of your lumbar spine and the nerves that come into the digestive and reproductive organs that go down the legs. We really want to keep that area of the spine healthy so that those parts of the body can work optimally. So that's the second rule that you're going to write down, is a slight forward curve in the lower back. So we have to talk about spinal neutral when we're stationary and we're either standing, laying down to sleep, or sitting in a chair. We also have to talk about it when we're moving around, right? The good news is the rules don't change. And those two rules are ear in line with the shoulder, slight curve in the lower back, okay? So when we're stationary, these are times when we're standing in line. We are looking down at our phone. We are sitting down to use the computer. We're sitting on the couch at night to relax. We're sitting in our car to drive somewhere. Those are times when I want you to think, is my ear in line with my shoulder? Is there a slight curve in my lower back? Check yourself and get a buddy. Someone else in the house, someone else in the family. If you're not constantly checking each other. These are old habits, right? And we use technology and we sit far more than our bodies were designed for. So we really have to be diligent. And even though I teach this all the time, I'm guilty of it myself. So none of us are going to be perfect on this. So it'd be ideal if you learn those 2 rules, you teach someone else, and then the 2 of you can watch each other and keep practicing. And the more you catch yourself, the more natural it's going to become. So let's talk about, one more thing I'd like to say is setting up those workstations at home. So you've got to get the monitor that you're looking at, or say you're using a tablet. Anything needs to be up at eye level so that you don't have to bring your body down to it. A monitor that's even just a few inches too low is going to make you do this. And then my ear comes forward and I'm putting all that stress on my nerve system. Think of that light switch off. Is it any wonder you feel stressed at the end of the day? So a laptop is really bad because it's always going to be too low because the keyboard is on the ground. So if you can get a keyboard that's detached, not a separate keyboard, separate mouse, wireless, or you plug it in, and then you could raise the laptop up on a higher countertop. I had one patient tell me they've set their ironing board up as their standing workstation, but still we've got to get things up a bit higher, stack up a couple shoe boxes, whatever it takes, and then that separate mouse, separate keyboard can be down at a more ideal position so that you're not up here trying to type. I've had people share with me that they're using a USB cable and connecting their laptop to the TV so that they have a better monitor situation and they're not sitting like this. Anything that you can do, you've got to adapt the situation, but it's really easy. You don't need an ergonomics expert to come to your house. You just need to ask yourself, is my ear in line with my shoulder? And is there a little curve in my lower back? If you're sitting on a stool and you're doing this because it's hurting your butt and there's no back support, well then you're stressing your spine. We've got to find a different chair. We've got to get a cushion behind your back. You've got to switch positions and do something. So now we'll talk about the way we move and keeping our posture ideal when we move. We're just going to wrap this up in just a few quick minutes. So the good news, like I said, is that the rules don't change. So you don't have to learn new rules. You just have to maintain those 2 rules in whatever position, whether we're bending forward, we're doing something, we're lifting something, are we doing exercises, a plank, a squat, it really doesn't matter. The rules still apply. I'm going to point out a couple of things where people make the mistake, because even if you've learned the ideal posture from the side, when you're sitting or standing, what happens sometimes is when we bend down, we instinctively bend from the belly button, and then we lose that curve in the lower back. So if you think bend from the hips, right here, stick your butt out, you can keep your spine exactly aligned the way it was when you were standing. That's called spinal neutral. It hasn't changed by bending at the hips instead of bending at the belly button. Okay? So that's a big important thing there. You're going to have flexible hamstrings in order to do that. So if we're doing a deadlift, we are keeping that form. If we are bending down to pick some laundry up out of the dryer, if we're bending down to put dishes in the dishwasher. The other thing I want you to be aware of is that a lot of these everyday activities we do include a bend, and we're doing it wrong most of the time, and then a twist. So like the laundry and the dishes, if we're bending and twisting, then we're really stretching and stressing and breaking down those discs in our lower back really quickly. So we want to avoid the bending improperly and twisting, and instead bend from the hips and pivot the body. So I can bend and I can lift something really heavy and move it over here safely by just pivoting my whole body. So avoid the bend and twist. And the other thing is that when we're trying to use good posture, spinal neutral, and we're moving, there's a tendency to mess up the neck, to what I call craning the neck. So a lot of times if we're going to, say, bend down to do a squat, or pick up the laundry basket, or dropping down into plank position, a lot of people will crane the neck, and the neck comes up like this. I mean, we try to keep our eyes in front of us so it's kind of feels natural, but it's not good for the neck. what you want is to maintain that spinal neutral, my ears in line with my shoulder, and imagine that I'm bending down to do a squat or pick up a basket of laundry, and my eyes actually gaze down a bit, and my spine stays neutral, okay? So push-ups, planks, people tend to go like this and do the exercise, and they're craning their neck. Instead, you want to pull the chin in, keep the spinal neutral, all right? So hopefully that was helpful. Hopefully you've learned those 2 rules, you've put them in your pocket, and you're going to teach them to someone else, and then you're going to practice, practice, practice. Now, there are a few key stretches I'm just going to mention briefly that I know none of us have been perfect our whole lives. We have not used good posture all the time. So there's 4 key stretches that are going to help you retrain the muscles. And I have to specify that stretches do not correct subluxations. Only adjustments do that. But the adjustments and the stretches together can really facilitate the change in shape and movement of the way you move your spine and your body. So the 4 stretches are quickly. Number 1, chin tucks. You could do this anywhere, anytime, but because most of the time we're looking down at our phone and our head's coming forward, we're looking at our computer, we're driving the car, our head is always coming forward of where it should be, chin tucks will help reverse this by taking you from neutral, so not out here, find neutral first, and then pull back, straight back, like that, and just do a few reps of the chin tucks. That's number 1. Number 2 is our crucifix stretch, and this one's really important because with poor posture usually comes rounded shoulders, and that's damaging to the shoulders over time as well. So in the crucifix stretch, we turn the palms out, and we stretch and rotate, roll the shoulders back into their ideal alignment. And then we squeeze the shoulder blades together, and we're exercising those postural muscles in the back, getting them stronger, woken up, and we're stretching these muscles that get tight from doing this. Number 3 is our hip flexor stretch. Really critical because the hip flexor muscle attaches directly to your spine, so from your spine to your leg, underneath all your organs back here. So the hip flexor stretch looks like this, getting a wide lunge. Don't arch the back, right? Stay neutral, straight up and down, and just lean into it. You're pressing forward just slightly, and you'll feel a stretch here. That's our hip flexor. And then the last one is our hamstring stretch. You do this seated or standing, and you're going to use good form, bending from the hips, and we're going to put, first we'll put one foot in front, and then we'll bend from the hips. And I feel that stretch all the way up the back of my leg. Now, I do not want you to let that spinal neutral go. Do not come down like this. Keep trying to push your butt back towards the wall behind you. And the more you do that, and the more you keep this curve, you'll really feel the stretch in the back of your leg. It doesn't matter if you can reach far. It matters that you're stretching the right muscles, not hurting yourself. So that's the information we have for you tonight. And I want to just end with the fact that small things over time are incredibly powerful. I want you to think about erosion, right? It doesn't seem like a big deal that, a few grains of sand or a few bits of dirt have washed away. But a very small little change, repeated consistently over time, makes a big difference when you look at the end of the road, right? So that goes in either direction, positive or negative. The little bits of, I'm just tired, and this is the way I like to drive, this is what's comfortable, or, the habit of looking at your phone, it's just a small thing. It may not seem that significant, but if you do it over and over and over years and years and years, the impact is huge. And a small improvement repeated over time will have a huge impact as well. So don't underestimate the small things, and do not let your spinal health erode. Take good care of your spine, start practicing good posture, and we'll see you next week.